My name is Alexander Peachy. I was with the New York State University tennis team as we traveled our way back from Canada for a match. I'm not exactly sure what happened, where things went wrong with the pilot, with the plane. All I know is that I woke up here, on this island, a peninsula maybe. Me and surprisingly close to 7 of my other teammates, all tennis players, survived the crash. I must have passed out from whether it was the pressure, I don't know what makes you lose consciousness during a plane crash. I never would have thought myself going through one before. When we woke up on the island, some of us had injuries that most certainly slowed us down to start. I was surprisingly relatively unscathed other than minor lacerations and until, well, where I am right now. But I guess I'll get to that. We wandered about the island, the area that we were in. It was beautiful to a certain extent, though. If you could set aside the panic that set in relatively quickly. I've had lots of experience out in the wilderness. This experience being relatively traumatic. I don't know if maybe I maintained my psyche by just existing within that environment. I'm not really too sure of outdoor. I apologize, I haven't eaten in quite some time. It's funny that I'm apologizing to who I don't really know, as if though my last words here on earth require an apology. I stuck it down here in this godforsaken cave. I was forced down there by them, whatever they are. Before I get into it, I just have to say that we gave it our best shot. A few of the individuals on my team, Joseph, Thomas, to name a few, they made their way to the beach, hoping maybe they could signal out some sort of SOS while the rest of us set up a camp. Me having some experience, we found items from the crashed plane that benefited us to a certain extent, whether that was medication, drinks, even an axe that most likely was used in emergent situations, this one being one of them. We gathered what we could, and we set up camp. We chopped wood, we made a fire. We did everything you would anticipate. There really wasn't much we could do as far as food goes. I mean, not many of us were hunters. I mean, sure, we could set up a trap, but I think the overall anticipation was maybe some sort of signal would be sent out. Maybe in a black box. I don't really know the ins and outs of airplanes, but I always just assumed if one went down, someone would find out. Someone would come look for us. We did find somebody, but by God, it was by no means of help. My friends at the beach, as they went to set up their SOS, lining stones or whatever it is they had expected to do out there, it must have, I don't know if it was them that got them, who it was, but they didn't come back. They didn't come back. We made it through the night. We were terrified to go out there looking for them, though I, to a certain extent, urged others that maybe we should, but it was so dark and it was so cold and we were so hungry. I guess maybe selfishness took over, but by the time we set up, really just clothes we found in suitcases of other people as places to lay down on, we fell asleep till the morning, around the fire, cold. It wasn't until sun came up that we made a decision to go looking for them. We went in the general direction that they were heading towards. We had passed by the beach earlier. We didn't see them. We didn't know where they went to. But we did find their clothes. We found their blood. At that point, I honestly had wished that it was maybe just one big nightmare. That I was going to wake up from this and be back on the airplane, comfortable in my chair, maybe a little cramped from my friends next to me. Maybe my mouth hanging wide open, looking silly in front of the stewardess or something. I didn't really know. But yeah, they were gone. We knew we couldn't just hang around, at least on the beach. It was too cold. And we knew we had to find some sort of shelter, some sort of something to protect us from the elements, because it was, I guess, intermittently raining from time to time, and we couldn't maintain being wet. I don't really know, but we ventured further into the island and stumbled almost across what looked to be, I guess, like an old teepee of sorts, as it was circled around an area in an opening of the woods that I guess almost made it seem like it was a village of sorts, like very primitive to a certain extent. And I thought maybe there was others. I saw what looked to be fire, freshly burnt, charcoal, or just burned wood and things of that nature, and I thought maybe there's someone here. Maybe we can get help. We didn't have any food. We couldn't hunt. We had nothing except really just suitcases, some of our rackets. I don't even know why we brought them with us. I guess we thought maybe they would be useful. I guess that sense of hope was snuffed out pretty quickly. By the time nightfall hit, we thought maybe these individuals who set up these camps, some sort of indigenous people in the area, could help us. We used the teepees. They were kind of open to air, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I guess it doesn't really matter. But we slept under them. There were already kind of mats, I guess you could say, constructed of various fabrics and sticks and leaves and things like that for padding, and we thought this was much better than what we had kind of open in air, open to the elements and terrified the night before. We let the fire run that night using a lighters that were, and matches that were on the plane, I guess just part of an emergency pack of sorts, but because God knows we couldn't start a fire on our own with friction, for God's sakes. I don't know if I was the only one that heard it, but it woke me up. Middle of the night. I mean, when you're out in the woods, you have no idea what time it is. Even if it's, I guess you could gauge based on the moon, but I couldn't see the moon. It could have been 10 p.m., it could have been 3 a.m. Dark as dark to me. Needless to say, I heard a scream. Or I don't know. A screech. A guttural proclamation from something. I don't even know. It was a mix. These things are not human. These things look like us, but they're not. I don't know what they are. I don't know what in God's name could have ever led some process of isolated evolution to ever bring humanity, if this is what you could call it, to what I saw. Needless to say, I heard it. I wanted to wake people, but I was too tired. My sense of hope was already gone, and it's not as if though hearing that sound made me realize that hope was gone. But in some ways I kind of hoped that it would take me away from this situation, that sound. Whatever it was, I don't know if I just didn't have mercy on the other people. I don't even know if anything could have came of it if I warned them. But I heard it. And I fell back asleep that night, if only for what felt like a few hours more. When we woke in the morning, that truly was when panic began to set in. Outside of the tents, teepees, whatever you want to call them, there was these, what can only be described as effigies of our friends who were missing. And when I say that, I don't mean statues or representations of them. I mean pieces of them. I mean my friend's head was on a stake with various other pieces of stick and skin stretched, pulled wide, and their expression in a state of just utter shock. It was like a decoration, but it was something from hell. And at that point, I knew I was in a nightmare. And truly, there are times where I think maybe right now, maybe you'll wake me up. Maybe you'll pull me out of this. I don't know. But that's all that was left of them. That's all I could see. Just the effigies. Whatever it was, whatever screamed at us the night before, I didn't know if we invaded their area. I didn't know if we were in its space or something insane, but it didn't like it. And rather than confronting us that night, it warned us. Like it was trying to ward us off or show off what it did to our friends. The panic set in very quickly. I didn't know what leadership I could really bring. I may have been one of the upcoming individuals on the team, but I have nothing to say in a scenario like this. I can barely conceive its reality, let alone try to talk people through it. Jeremy took off. He felt that he always knew things better anyways, or maybe he could handle it himself, so he just took off. Disbelieving his scenario, I don't blame him. Off into the woods. Samantha, she... God bless her. She convinced us all to maybe continue staying. Maybe staying another night at this place. I don't know where the logic was there with whoever put our friend's head on a stake. Probably wasn't going to treat us too nicely when they got to us. But we really had no other options outside of gathering water and looking for more supplies. God, hope was gone. When we... Well, once again, it comes in the dark of night. Your horrors, your nightmares. Nobody comes to stab you in the back in broad daylight, at least nobody smart. I was barely asleep, dozing off, really just in and out between bits of adrenaline and exhaustion. I still feel my heart beating. Even now, it's never in a relaxed state. Then I heard another scream. Not like the other ones. This one echoed, like he was trying to signal something. And this woke everyone up. It started with yells. It started with panic. It always starts with panic. And fear overtook us. And then more screaming. Chants almost, tribal in some ways. And there really is only darkness now that the fire is out. Something hit somebody quickly. You could hear it flying through the air. That was one of our screams eliminated very quickly. That immediately prompted me to panic, utter panic. I could only exist within a state of instinct in that moment. And I took off. I must have ran at least 30 or 40 yards, hearing whatever it was reaching my friends. Their screams still echo in my mind. I still had a lighter in my pocket. I still had a stick that I instinctively grabbed to defend myself against what I had no idea. These ghouls, these monsters. And that was when I ran into it. Whatever it was big. It was slimy. Much taller than myself. I can't even comprehend its size. When I ran into it, perhaps in whatever light was still adjusting in my eye, whether a reflection from its own personal luminescence or maybe from, I don't know, maybe a peak of the moonlight or something. This thing was large. It didn't even necessarily growl. I don't know what it did, but God, it just sounded like a monstrosity. But I knew for a fact that whatever it was with that which overtook me and my friends. As I ran, and I ran, and I ran, and I ran. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. I was exhausted. I didn't even know which direction I was running. I fell to my knees, my lungs burning. I needed water. I needed it quickly. I couldn't receive it. But I still held tight to that stick that I held in my hand, still wrapped in cloth as some sort of makeshift torch that we had planned to use at some time in case we wanted to signal a plane at night with that little hope that we had. I held my lighter up, trying to gauge any sort of semblance of context of where I was, what happened, where my friends were, but I was too afraid to even call out to them in this moment, because I had no idea what it was that came for us, that already took my other friends. Using my lighter, I brought it to the torch, ignited it as best as I could, had to hold it there for, felt like forever. Could have been 5 minutes to get a flame going on that piece of fabric wrapped around the stick. Holding it up, I was able to gauge roughly 3 to 4 feet in front of me. Oddly enough, it led me here. Whatever it was that was right in front of me, how I stumbled across it, I don't know. It was a cave, I guess you could call it, or some sort of opening or cliffside. The only way I can describe it, I suppose, is as if though there was a sudden crevasse that opened up in the woods, as if though the subterranean world in itself was suddenly present to the outside world. I heard the wind going through it is kind of what caught my attention initially, and I was able to fumble my way, utilizing my makeshift torch to get to where I am now. Next to the rocks was some sort of plank that boulders at the top, or large, heavier rocks, were able to hold down. Examining that, I saw what I could only describe as some sort of spelunking rope, as if some more people had already been here and decided to explore further. I don't know why, or what they found, or perhaps it was from those that we passed interact dealt with. Those creatures. Sorry, I'm just trying to maintain any semblance of sanity that I have left. As I descended down the rope, I felt myself descending further into madness. Barely able to hold on, rope burning through my fingers as I was able to just slowly ease myself down. God, I can smell myself now. It's disgusting. I'm a disgusting heap of nonsense mess. I can't even barely see 2 inches in front of my own face. How cold it is down here. I must have gone down, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 feet before I reached the bottom. Still torch intact. I set off in any direction I could. Things were cramped at first. They started to open up in a sort of expanse. I wandered further, at this point, not sure if I was even wandering towards some sort of hope. Why even use that word anymore? At this point, I wondered if I just continue to walk forward based on instinct and curiosity. The same thing, I'm sure, that brought man to this godforsaken place in the first place and created whatever is out there. Whatever it is that's looking for me. As I wandered further, I came across a sort of extension of whoever it was that came down here. More tents, more things, but also them as well. The first one snuck up on me. His lifeless face hanging upside down from the ceiling. Holding back vomit, I brought my torch to examine what it was. Some sort of hiker, some sort of spelunker, explorer, hung upside down from the ceiling. Disemboweled from the stomach. Face completely lifeless. Whatever these things are, they enjoy what they do. They enjoy it. Trophies, I guess we are. Just part of the hunt. Disgusting monsters. As I fingered my way through this person, this individual's area, I found this recorder here. Surprisingly, still has battery. An H4n handy recorder, it says here. I don't know if whoever this poor son of a gun, I don't know what his plan was. Whether he just wanted to make field recordings or what, but curiosity always seems to get the best of us humans. And then I heard them. Echoing even louder. It could have been dozens of them, for as many as there are coming. And I had no other option but to run again. Like some sort of cattle, like some sort of deer, like some sort of sport. My heart still pounds, thinking of how close they were. God, it's cold down here. Just as I was running, I couldn't even keep track of where I was with my torch, and I was fearful that maybe that torch would lead them to me. Whoever they were, being down here, their eyesight was infinitely better than my own. As I ran and ran further, banging myself off of rock, cold stone, soiling all of my clothes, whether with my own excrement, embarrassingly enough, or through the muddy, disgusting waters down here in this cave. I stumbled across them. What was, maybe a group of them. I still had my torch. and I quickly threw it in a puddle next to me to snuff it out, but one of them had what I can only describe as some sort of crown on its head that it seemed to have fashioned light like a flashlight that was fashioned onto a skull that they wore on their head, almost like a crown. It was like it used the items that it found, but in no way were these creatures, in my mind, sitting there observing them, intelligent enough to have developed these kinds of technologies. They had to have stolen them through scavenging. I guarantee it. But as he would turn, though really only his light on his head was visible through the eyes of whatever skull he wore on his head, I began to see what he was surrounded by. Bipedal creatures that spoke to each other in grunts and animalistic fashion that disgusted me. I sat frozen in fear. I could feel my heart rate going, but I was unable to move. I could only sit and watch from a vantage point above them. The disgusting one was tearing into what I could only describe as some sort of flesh. As they turned, some of them were covered in what looked like red paint. But who knows what it could have been, knowing what they're capable of. They look like us. They look like us. I repeat, if you see them, they look like us. But they're not. The monsters. Disgusting freaks. Subterranean abominations. It wasn't long till they saw me. I don't know if it was my stench or my breathing that I tried to hold back, but they saw me. The one with the skull on his head, I still can't comprehend what that was, but it had some sort of light that shone up towards me, like a decorative head piece. It quickly caught my eye, which filled my heart with even more fear. But this was instinctual, and I had to move because I could hear them ascending the rocks towards me, and very quickly, their wet hands making haste, not wasting any time, ready to do whatever they wanted to me, to do what they did to that poor hiker, to do what they did to my friends. Unable to barely react, I fell. I stumbled backwards and I fell. I don't know how far I fell. But I woke up here. My ankle. It's shattered. I can't even feel it anymore. It must... I don't know. I don't know why. I've heard of shock, but I've never heard of this. Slow tinges are coming back, I suppose, but I don't know if I severed some nerve that just completely placed me in a position of no pain, or maybe I've just completely lost touch with the reality. But here I am. I can hear their echoes in the distance. Perhaps whatever pitfall I found myself here down, maybe they passed by me looking for it, passed by it looking for me. Truth be told, I'm kind of happy to be here. Life was kind of starting to lose its vigor. And to be honest, though I'm starting to lose grip with what is or isn't truth anymore, this is the most alive I've felt in quite some time. Maybe, in some weird way, these monsters got the right idea. We are on their territory. We're in their home. In some ways, I kind of hope they make it quick. I'd rather be disemboweled by some freaks than starve to death or bleed out or whatever is about to occur to me. Mom, Dad, I don't know if anybody will ever find this. I'm sorry I didn't work harder. I'm sorry I didn't call more. I do love you guys. I pray that nobody does find this, because I know that they, too, will exist within the nightmare that I'm experiencing now. Am I hearing things? Is this psychosis finally starting to kick in? Or is this still shock? They're coming. They're coming. They're coming. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry.